Harvest Alliance community. How y'all doing today? What's up, brother Doug?
Good morning. I have brick envy. Every time we go on a Monday, I look at your background and I look at mine, and I have brick envy. Where did you order that curtain?
Amazon, man. Amazon. It's all about the Amazon.
Oh.
It's about the only place you can find stuff like that.
I know.
Morning, Adam. Morning, Jeremy. And yes, thank you, Saul. I was just about to bring this up. Good morning. Today is September 11th. Never forget. Yes, indeed. So many went to bed thinking they're going to work or going home or going off on business trips, and it was their last. So we remember those responders. We remember those families, and we appreciate their sacrifice.
It's a couple decades old now, which makes me feel really old. But yeah, for the young people to look at it like JFK being shot, before I was born, it's something we can't forget for sure. So thank you, Saul.
Yes, sir. It shaped an entire generation. So my generation was all watching nonstop news cycle while in school while this was going on. So yeah. Did you have a good weekend? Was it relaxing? Get away?
We had like a little bit of a heat wave, so we just looked for things in air conditioned places. So my wife was always great at the kids thinking that the local supermarket kids center where you drop them off so you can go shopping was like Disney World to them. Like they just came home excited for the it's called Big Y. That's the supermarket chain. And my wife somehow magically made them take a dollar store item. And so we went to IKEA and walked around and had lunch there. And they're all teenagers now, and they almost thought it was Disney that close. So we can continue to trick them a little bit longer.
My daughter loves going to IKEA. That's her because she just loves wandering around that store. Yeah.
Although their Swedish meatballs is now $12.99 instead of, it used to be very cheap. So, but still, whatever. I mean, Disney is 5 times the cost of IKEA. So I have to stay grateful, right? We were going to do one of those escape rooms, but for 5 of us, it was going to cost
it's expensive.
Really expensive. So,
and
then I was worried to be stuck in there because I'm not that smart. So, just not be able to get to work on Monday.
That's not true. That's not true. You're much smarter than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah, because I know how to punch hole through drywall if I can't get out. So, How about you, Zach? You must have rode your bike.
I did both days. Yep.
Because when I heard you come into the camera, your calves were rubbing together. I heard them hitting, so I know that you're continuing to develop your large muscles.
Yeah, I had like 3 or 4 days off because my bike blew up. I was sick. Last Monday we weren't on because it was the host with no voice. I was not happening. I could not talk at all.
It's a good day to relax from labor. So not that this is too much labor. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah. But so I had a couple days off. When you push a little $300 Amazon bike 1,400 miles and you ride it hard and put it away wet, it doesn't last so long, and the back wheel, all spokes popped. And anyway, so I had a buddy who had one. I picked it up on Wednesday and put almost 30 miles in that first day. Did
you say you broke an Amazon bike?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that wheel is going like this.
I'm going to buy an Amazon bike, and I'm going to see how long it takes for me to break it. So it'll be at my tag sale in 5 years. Brand new.
I mean, a normal person, it's a different story. But
that's funny. That's funny. That's what you do for fun. Do that.
Yeah, so I had a buddy getting rid of a really nice bike, a Specialized A1, super cool bike. So I went and put miles in. And I worked yesterday morning. I do the live streams for the church. And then we went to this place called Pizza Ranch. Again, you want to talk about kids, like little things, just making them happy. They have an arcade there, just like a little ticket arcade. It's nothing fancy or whatever. My kid absolutely loved it. She loved that she got to play the arcade games with her dad. She just thought it was the greatest thing. So it was fun. It was a good day. Can't complain about the weekend.
I have a fake doctor's note, so I don't have to ride.
Good. Oh man. Well,
so what are we talking about?
Yeah. Either way, it doesn't matter. We can introduce it and then pray it in, or we can just pray it in. And
that's like awkward dancing. We just bumped into each other. Let's start with God. With God. Good morning, Lord. It's Monday, and we thank you for the weekend. We thank you for the time of rest. Lord, we pray that this week we be faithful servants to you by making you our putting you moment by moment in our lives, in our thoughts, in our deeds, in our actions. Lord, we just, out of love for you, want to follow you and trust you. And through that loving action to you becomes an outpouring of light to the world. And so today, Lord, I lift up Jeremy in Texas and his company. We just thank you for his faithfulness to the community, his work ethic, his mindset, his caring for others. Lord, I pray that this day be a day of blessings and riches, but heavenly riches. And if they become worldly riches as well on this day, that's a benefit as well. But we thank you for Jeremy and his family and his commitment to family. And we pray as he grows his company that those values pass through and on to his employees. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Love that your prayer was a great segue into the topic. So the theme for the week is sales, but we're talking about selling ourselves, selling our companies to potential hires just as much as they're selling themselves to us as being a part of the team. And so, a lot of people, I know I had this mindset when I first started hiring. It's shifted along the way. But it's the employee's job to sell themselves to me. I'm the one with the job. Like that's because that's the way that I was brought into it, right? It was my job to sell myself to a future employer. And that's not really the case anymore. It's just as much on the employer to sell the company to a potential hire. And what does that look like, right? You brought on a ton of people. Like you guys have a lot of pieces. And so what does that look like in your world, Doug? Like, how are you guys selling Action Appliance to a new hire?
Like you, I'm a work in progress, right? We recently, through the Knitting Club, read Up Your Business, and there was a chapter on that, or a paragraph or two, where Dave Roberts, I think it was, he kind of took the stance of what you originally said. And I've still been pondering that thought, the idea that they do need to sell themselves to us, those potential hires, and that we don't want to just lay it out like it is a trip to Disney World and here's your ticket and come on board. So I've been trying to go from me selling carefully and in detail. When you start smiling before I know you launched the comment, I know there's a problem.
I love it. That's too funny right there. Doing something right. 3 weeks in and my apprentice wants to get my tattoo. Good job, buddy.
Well, listen, that could be a red flag of a stalker as well. We don't know yet, Jeremy. It's till soon, but we'll find out. Let's have Jeremy on in a month and see how that goes. But
it sounds like a good idea, actually.
So I do think it's a balance of letting them know ahead of time the big picture, the 100-foot level of who we are, how we got where we're at, and where we want to go, and hope that you see buy-in from that you see excitement and that they can fit in there. But as well as I think we got to make sure I'm not too aggressive because I see their resume and I'm willing to accept them.
They had that conversation.
Good. I'm glad you have a good, strong person to your right side there.
Yeah, that's funny right there. Yeah, there's a lot of components to it too, right? As we were talking this, we're like, yeah, let's talk about compensation and helping our team sell better. And it's like one thing led into the next piece of that. Compensation is just a piece of this, right? Like what you're paying them, how you're giving bonuses or how you're giving commissions, whatever that looks like, that is just one small piece of the larger puzzle. And one of the things that as I was listening and riding my bike this week, one of the books brought up a topic. Are we as managers and owners, we modeling that work-life balance for our team, right? So when we're going into this interview process, are we sharing about what that looks like? And balance doesn't mean it's always, this is one thing that drives me crazy when people think balance. I think, oh, it's 50-50. No. Ever watch a teeter-totter? A teeter-totter goes back and forth. So balance is always an ebb and flow between work and life. And sometimes one is more, sometimes the other is more. And it goes back and forth. Are we modeling that for our current employees and our future employees? Right? What else? What are some of the other things that we need to be communicating in this process?
Yeah, I think the hard truths of the job as well. I mean, if you've ever been excited about a potential hire, again, you want to make it as beautiful sounding as it can be, but you also don't want to come in with the doom and gloom. Use the words "but," try to do shock and awe, because what you're trying to avoid potentially is having it blow up on you later. So you want to just give it to them all at one time. Here's how great it can be. And by the way, this is what sucks. And do you hear me? Do you hear me how bad it can get? And do you understand that? And you're trying to make up for all frustrations and misunderstandings that you might have had with other employees. And it's out of order. And, you can't do it that way. I don't think so.
Seems like a weird way to sell your company to an employee. It's great, but it sucks.
Well, my service manager uses a lot less words than me. That's probably why some of the guys would rather have him call than me call them. And for the last year or two, I've had him in the second interviews, the service manager, and giving them a chance to talk. And I could see Brian, who again helps balance me. But we've needed to work through that. He wants to. Do you understand that you have to work a Saturday, every 4 weeks, and that we know when we start in the morning, but we don't know when we end, and he just really wanted to make that point. And I'm just kind of watching, because you can't say pause, and qualify what's going on. So you almost in real time just let it play out. And the good news is I think that sort of how Brian handles it isn't so bad. It didn't scare anybody off. And so I have to be willing to continue to think about how I'm selling the company in our interview process.
Yeah, I think we put on the rose-colored glasses, especially in the trades, right? Just it's you can make money and as much money as you want, and we forget we don't ever know when our day is over. Our day is over when our day is over.
Right.
And so I think we put those rose colored glasses on, and especially once we go to the other side and we're hiring people, and oh, it's great. And, you get to solve puzzles all day and you get to work with customers, and we just kind of minimize that. So I think there is something to be said. Like, here's the pitfalls, right?
Yeah.
If this doesn't align with who you are, let's just not waste each other's time. It's okay. It's maybe just not a great fit, but here's the reality of what we have. It's like when you're selling any product, right? Like, or when you're selling a repair. Listen, I can fix this washer, but here's the potential pitfalls in fixing this washer. So you really got to decide if it's worth it or not.
I also think that we might be, when it's convenient or it makes sense, want it to be very transactional. So there's an interview and a conversation that goes back and forth. And when they say, yes, I accept the job, maybe at that point, I'd like to believe, and I want it to be, that the deal has been done. And we're moving forward as we spoke. But I mean, how much can they remember of all the things you shared? How much can they really understand what you meant by you start it? As an example, you start, we know when we start, but we don't know when we finish, right? If you're interviewing somebody that's inexperienced, that has a bigger statement than somebody coming on board that's experienced and can manage their day and, control their schedule of less talking or more talking, looking at extra appliances. So that has a bigger impact on the person who's brand new, who's going to struggle for the first couple years and work longer hours, right? So we might, hey, you agreed. Right here in my office, you sat in that chair. You said, you heard me say it. What are you doing? What's your problem? It's a continual process of reminding, and maybe we're reselling the idea to people who already accepted the position. And we could cross our arms and say, come on, man, I told you this. I already told you this, but it's a lot to process. It's a lot to understand until you live it out. And we have to be patient to bring them along and continue to pitch the great idea as a process.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, if we view this as a constant contract negotiation, I mean, we have to resell this to the employees. And that's how you maintain that kind of job satisfaction, as it were. How are you placing your ads? What's your sales pitch when you're looking for a new hire?
I mean, for the last year or so, of course, it's the legacy of the company, being around since 1961, and then all the support that we are able to offer, which, I'm sure Jeremy would love to have an office manager and a parts manager, and, another tech support person besides himself. So I feel like, we have those values to offer. But I think it's pitching a mechanically inclined person with a love for people, because if you have those two things, then you can make something great. So our ads are more about seeking out people looking for career change, which is very different than it has been for the last 10 years that I've been running ads. So it's been working so far. I mean, we have 3 out of 5 work out so far.
Nice.
From scratch. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep. But we would take an experienced person as well. But I've heard on the Facebook communities for years, it's easier to train from scratch than to undo habits of old. And it seemed daunting to me, but you just got to get it going, and it works out.
I'm going to pull out the Chicago for a moment.
Oh, no kidding.
Both suck. Choose your hard. Having done both, right? I brought experienced guys in. I brought guys in that, were in the field for however many years, and they were terrible. Because again, it's the habits. And I brought new guys in, fresh, green teach me everything and they suck and they're terrible and they get to a point where they know everything and they don't want to learn. That's not to say that that's where that stops with them, right? It can grow past that, but choose your hard, right?
Yeah.
Like it neither is an easy prospect. If you think having a team is easy, you should probably stay a one-man show.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
not.
Don't we like to think that life is black and white, and if you follow these 4 bullet points, you'll accomplish the task. It is hard, but I mean, I like what you said earlier, that it's modeled from the top down, you know, in the sense that like us as technicians, we go to a home, we talk to a person, we diagnose the problem, we quote it, and they say, yeah, go for it. And then you either get a phone call or on your return trip, they're changing their mind because they talked to the spouse, they did some conversation. If you have this mindset that it's a continual sales approach throughout the whole process, you're going to have a different feeling and a different vibe when they go, hey, before you start, I just got to ask you a couple questions. And right there, if you're like, what? Dude, we shook hands, and you're starting to get tight-chested thinking about the rest of your day and all your other calls, and you can see that maybe they're going to change their mind, or they, flip-flopped. If that aggravates you, you're in the wrong mindset. If we interview someone and you tell them everything they need to hear and they accept the position and they seem to have forgotten or didn't process everything that you said, if you have that tightened chest mindset, they're going to sense bitterness in you. And so you might as well get used to it from the top down. We have to continue to repeat ourselves, resell ourselves, and adjust to the changes that happen as we're really living it out, right?
And you hit the nail on the head. That's my point. It's going to start out hard and you're going to get worn down and you're going to be tired. But are you able to persevere through that? Are you able to continue to model? Are you able to continue to sell yourself to these employees? It's not easy.
No.
But the people business isn't easy. People are messy. They're complicated. And it's never going to be easy. So if you do like a challenge, then rock and roll. Start hiring some employees.
I'll tell you something, Zach. This is my own growth, or not growth, whatever, change in spirit. Starting out as a general manager 10 years ago, and then meeting people at ASTI, and then once social media really kicked up and making friendships, there's those guys out there that we know that go, I never lose an unemployment case. I never lose a credit card dispute. I rarely lose employees that I've hired. I just tell them how it is and they accept it. And they speak in these absolutes. And in the beginning, that would rock my world. Like, oh my gosh, I think I suck at this, because I'm having these problems. And then I realized it's a personality type of these people who speak in these absolutes and have those rose-colored glasses. And the reality is they're not bad people. And I'm not better than them. I'm just saying I'm old enough and I've done it long enough to know that everyone loses credit card disputes. Everyone hires somebody and that employee starts looking back and saying, well, I don't want to do that, but I told you that, and it's like you can be as impeccable with your word as you can until you walk through those steps and processes. You won't really know what you're saying and feeling. So those absolutes, I've come to love them when they used to just annoy the heck out of me. And I can mention something. No, I won't mention names. But if I ever tell you that I love you and we've only chatted online, that means you're one of them. All right. But, it's amazing. I think that we need to be open-minded and be realistic. That perfection or near perfection is pretty impossible, Zach. It really is.
And that's a great thing that things will change from your perspective, from the employee's perspective. And that's why I like the idea of a continual sales pitch, right? Like a contract renegotiation, because life changes, priorities change. The company grows and evolves and becomes this different thing. And maybe the employee, adds children or adds a spouse or whatever, and life changes and things happen. And so we end up in these different places in life, and that's okay. Not dealing in the absolutes. I'm learning to live in the gray life, right? And there are some boundaries. There are some very here's the wall here that
that's right.
You keep going that way, you're going to hit that, and you keep going this way, you're going to hit that. But somewhere in that middle, somewhere in that gray area, there's plenty of room to maneuver around. I love what Saul said. Hiring experience, no experience, doesn't matter. Process is the same. Hire the most willing, and eventually they'll become not willing, right? Like they'll just the life changes, right? These things happen, and so at that point, that's where you resell a company, where you, and what's part of the selling process, Doug? You hit on it earlier. You ask questions. What's going on? I hear you're frustrated. I hear you're just struggling with working here. What's going on? Be curious. Ask these questions, and you'll find that you have a much longer retention. It's a pain to hire. It really is a pain to hire. We see it in the groups. It's one of the hottest topics next to warranty companies aren't paying me. But isn't it so much better if you can keep the employees that you work so hard to hire? What is that? What does that?
Well, again, to channel Chicago, it's hard and it's humbling.
Yeah.
And the parallels to hiring an employee and reselling yourself to the employee, and the parallel of us as technicians, which probably everyone on here, mostly except for Sal, can relate to, is that those same principles happen with our customers. How about the customers or the pre-hired employees or employees that aren't communicating well, but you can sense through some of their small actions or their body language that they're not happy, right? You sell the job, you're finishing the job, and the body language changes with the customer, and you're not sure what happened. Nothing went wrong, but you can tell that there was a shift. If you want to put your blinders on and look at your checklist and said, I greeted them, I diagnosed it, I quoted them, I put the parts in, I tested the unit, and they're giving me the check. They're giving me my credit card payment. Well, I did it. But if you can tell that something shifted and you choose to put your blinders on, well, guess what? The 2-star review pops up. It says, they came out right away. They're really great. They did it in 15, 20 minutes. And I looked at
overcharged me. Their
parts are $20. And it's like, and again, we could put our blinders on and go, what? Here's the checklist. It all happened. It went down. They didn't say anything to me, but you need to be aware and you need to sense those little things with the customers. And at that moment, you might have to say, so do you have any questions for me? Do you have any other concerns that might coax out that person who may have an issue? And you never know what it might be. It might be, well, I was hoping you were going to move the dryer, over 4 inches. You have no idea what it could be, but it could be many things. And the same thing with the employees, same thing, the body language, right?
I'm going to give a homework assignment to y'all that are still listening to us. There's a book called The Book of Beautiful Questions by Warren Berger. It really goes into the science of asking more and better questions. And what does that look like? And so I love your questions, but they stop short. Let's draw out more of that customer. Let's draw out more of that employee. What's a better question that we can ask, or a better way to ask that same question that'll elicit a response, right? And so practice asking questions. That that is the biggest part of the sales process. The best salespeople out there ask the most questions. They speak the least, but they ask the most.
That's right.
Questions.
That's right.
And it's no different with your employees. It's no different with a future hire. It's no different with your customer. Like, you have to just ask more and better questions. So get really comfortable, get better at asking questions.
Listen, I like Joe's comment, right? Because we really do need to find better. We need to find those technician hearers. And here's what a technician hearer does: they get in the van or their truck, and they're driving to their next call, and they think about what just happened. You just put a maintenance kit in a dryer for the 450,000th time that you've ever done it. Like, you've done it over and over and over. What happened? And you sense that something was off, and you try to think about what happened. What was that customer thinking? What was the stumbling block? What was the issue? Do I need to change what I have to say? Do I need to ask a different question next time? It helps us refine our process every day. And that's what I would do. And sometimes I would be getting on the phone with a fellow tech and calling them up and go, hey, let me tell you what happened on this last call. I did this. I've done this a bunch of times when it comes to defrosting a refrigerator before coming back to put the parts in. I would say this or I would say that, but I got this response for the first time from a customer. And I'm not sure if I'd hear that again. Have you ever heard that comment? I have. What have you been saying? So we dive into how to handle something that's new or that could repeat itself. We do the same thing with our employees. How they respond when they typically respond, and when they don't, when they do it differently this time, what do we do? Right? And what do we say differently? It just so happens, by the way, this last pay period, I had 2 different technicians reach out about their payroll. Their checks were kind of lower than normal. They're all 100% commission. And so I had to sit there. I looked through it. It's done properly. And I had to sit there and think about what they might be feeling and thinking. Is it that because it got a little bit slower, so they don't have those extra calls that they've been padding, how many walks or service call onlys? I'm just looking at it. And then I've kind of settled on the fact that I don't think they really believe and understand it's a true partnership. That at Action Appliance at 100% commission, when it's really busy for us, they're going to make incredible money. And when it's slower, they're going to make less money. And that's exactly what us as ownership experiences as well, a true partnership. So that means that my reflection on this weird moment where 2 technicians in one pay period come to me and say, hey, I've got some concerns, means that we might not be talking the partnership aspect of business together enough. And I assume that maybe we did. So we're going to explore that.
Another possibility, and this is one of the things that I wish I had modeled for me. And if your company doing this, it's going to set you head and shoulders apart from anyone else. Teach your employees to be good stewards of money. Are you modeling like being good money managers? Do you know what a selling point that is to teach your employees? Like, hey, there's going to be a slow period. I know you got a ton of money coming in right now, but like, don't go and gamble at the casino with this. Like, it's because there's this season coming that it's really going to slow down. And here's what that looked like in my life. Here's how I went through that process when I was there. And are we modeling that? If you are probably in the 1% of companies that are out there that are modeling good financial stewardship to your team.
Yeah.
Good on you. And if you're not, this isn't like a knock. This is just something to think about, because as I heard Doug talk, I'm like, no, Doug's a great guy. I know Doug cares about his employees. Doug, are you modeling good financial stewardship? Are you bringing in a CPA? Are you bringing in someone that can teach these guys how to invest? Are you bringing someone in that can teach them how to save or create a budget or whatever? Like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but it's something worth thinking about, because what I hear is it's light, it's slow, I need this money. Okay, let's talk about that. Are we living paycheck to like it's just things like that.
It's not a one and done thing. Like, I did invited everyone to a Zoom call for a financial guy from my BNI group.
Don't go buy that new boat you were thinking about.
Yeah.
Not at the end of the season.
Not at the end. No, I brought him in, but doing it once isn't enough. To me, it's a regular conversation that you have until you know that they've kind of been through it a couple seasons at least. And I've hired 6 or 8 people in the last year or two, and so they don't have enough time under their belt. So it's the regular meetings with the service manager to talk about, wow, that was a great week, man. Those extra 6 calls that you don't normally take, where that really helped out a lot. And understand in January, February, March, they may not be there. Or we start to see this now. I don't know about some of you guys, but our techs are in that mode of, let me get through these calls because there might be more. And so they're going quickly. But now that they're not coming, they're getting done at 3:00. And they could have reacted differently. They could have asked about other appliances. They could have done extra things, not for money, but because you understand, if you do extra things for a customer, you are building a customer for life. Back to you see the body language, and they're like, wow, I thought that was going to take a lot longer than you shared in the beginning. And I used to think of that as a compliment, that they thought that, wow, they were so shocked about how fast I was. And quickly, a year or more it took for me to realize they were questioning the value. So it's very easy to say, well, yeah, it was pretty quick. So, I have a little time. Is there anything else I can look at for you? No. Because now they're afraid we're going to take another $300 from them. And so you have to ask again. This is what I've learned. You have to ask again. Listen, I'm here. It's free. It's free. How about your dishwasher? Is it washing well? Then you get in there and you take a look at it, and there's that white filmy crap all over the screen of the pump assembly. And, you even if you do something or not, you give them the fresh tablets, or you say, hey, for another $50, I will completely take a look at this. I'll clean this out for you. They will be very happy to pay the $50 to solve the dishwasher problem, which was going to normally be $200, right? So it's switching gears when it starts to slow down. Those are the things we have to coach before it happens. Then we almost look like whisperers, right? Hey, this is going to happen. You're going to notice this. Be prepared for it. So that's that regular meeting and preparing them for these seasons, right?
And it's no different with employees, right? I have a friend in Kansas City, Cassie and Oscar Pound. They don't lay off HVAC technicians ever. They don't. They go through slow seasons just like us, but they model good financial planning, good stewardship of money to their employees by not laying off their employees. Yeah. They prepare themselves for these slow seasons, right? They prepare themselves for the time where there's not a lot of calls coming in, by making sure that they are charging appropriately, making sure that they are not spending money on these foolish things. They're not, the owners going out and buying a boat on the company dime. Sure. And are we modeling that same thing for our employees? Are we showing our employees that we are good stewards, that we intend to keep them around even in those slow seasons, even when it hurts our pocketbook? Are we modeling that same thing? I think if you can figure out how to manage those things, again, you're leaps and bounds ahead. It's not an absolute, but you are much further ahead of the curve.
And I agree completely. And I think you have to look at that in very subtle levels all the way up to the obvious. because I feel like what sales does is it informs others about the possible misconceptions that they have about the situation. Like Zach, you've got an appliance repair business and you just bought a boat and you got a good deal on it. They're just assuming you're rich and you're loaded, right? But to share and talk about how the company has to navigate through the slower months, and that's important to share.
How long did it take me to save for that boat? How long did it, like what did I have to do extra, or what did I have to do as far as investments go? Like, what did that look like? How do we begin to train our employees in those methodologies? I think that's just as important as all the basics, how do we fix an appliance? How do we talk to a customer? I think these extra steps that not a lot of people think about are so important in hiring and retaining. So
agreed.
Awesome, guys. Well, hopefully that was helpful. Again, these aren't absolutes. These are just kind of like some boundary level, some gray area that Doug and I have found ourselves living in as we hire, as we retain employees. And hopefully you found something useful in today's grind. We appreciate you guys.
Have a great week.
There. Yeah, get out there and love those customers well. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.